What's up? It's Joel from Joel Does Music. We're talking about one of my, here we go, it's a little secret, guilty pleasure bands, 5 Seconds of Summer. Okay, listen, I like the guys, I vibe to them. I'm not an avid fan, I'm just, a casual listener. But their debut album, which is their self-titled, recently had its 10-year anniversary. And I'm here to talk about it with one of my good friends, Mandy. She's also a massive Paramore fan, but that's another topic for another day. What's up, Mandy?
Hi, friend. It's good to
Hello.
be.
Round two. I can't believe it. It only took a year.
I know. It's been a long time. Again, long overdue.
I know for sure. Well, thank you for hopping on this call. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for asking me to do this again. It
Yeah,
was
no
fun.
problem. I mean, I figured your insight with music and pop culture is always so good, and it's a little unique in my opinion. So I figured, this would be such a good discussion to have.
No, I love that. Awesome.
Cool. All right, let's get into it. So, 5 Seconds of Summer,
hmm
self-titled debut album. What do you remember around the time that it came out? What were your first impressions when you finally got to listen to it?
hmm When you asked me about, talking about the first album, I was like, oh my God, that's such a time capsule for me because I don't even know what year did it come out. See, I'm not prepared for this. 2014. 2014. I just moved to the States. I was like 19, 20. I just started college, so it was just a lot of new experiences for me, experiencing, a different culture, different way of living. I was just kind of, outside of my bubble that I grew up in. And I just happened to come across Five Sauce. I don't even remember exactly the first time I listened to them, but it was kind of like just a period in my life where I really wanted to branch out and check out new bands. And it was also around the time when, Tumblr was very big. So I was very into the Tumblr artists, the 1975 and Arctic Monkeys was very big around that time as well. And then I just happened to come across Five Sauce somehow. And they were kind of like the soundtrack to like my late teenage, like early 20s.
I like how you said that album and that era as a whole for you was kind of like a time capsule because if you
hmm
think about it now, like 10 years later, it really was a time capsule for a lot of people. I feel like they had like that classic, very pop punky, but really more on the poppy side music on that first album of theirs. And the Tumblr era, that just really brought me back. Oh
I
God.
know, I know. And I had a fan blog too, so I reblogged a lot of Five stuff back in the day.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up Tumblr because I actually have a question that just came into mind. Okay, so do you remember on Tumblr there were a bunch of posts about One Direction versus 5 Seconds of Summer or like fanfic between the two groups, which I really don't approve of at all?
I do remember that. Yes, I mean, I wasn't a One Direction fan back in the day. I was very, you know, I was very emo, very edgy back then, very angsty. So I kind of gravitated more towards those artists. So One Direction, like a pop boy band, was not really for me. Now I feel kind of differently about them, but yeah, Five Sauce was kind of like the edgy alternative to One Direction, excuse me. And I do have to add that I did fall down the Wattpad rabbit hole occasionally. I did read a couple fan fictions here and there. I have to admit that.
Oh God, you're one of those victims. Oh no.
But yeah, it was so fun though. You know, people are really creative on there.
I mean, if you want to use creative as a great descriptive word, sure, that
But let's put it that way, yes.
let's put it that way. God. Well, yeah, I think I definitely agree with you on that in the sense that when it comes to people, talking about One Direction versus 5 Seconds of Summer, like comparing and contrasting both bands, I feel like, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong in this sense, I feel like Five Sauce was a more rockier or like more accessible version, not accessible, but just a more rockier version of One Direction.
Yeah,
Bad boy image to them, slightly, even though they were still a little clean early in their career. But they were
yeah.
definitely like the rock version of One Direction, which I loved about them in the first place.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the way they came up was completely different. One Direction was part of the X Factor, I
Hmm.
believe.
Yes.
Um, so they were just kind of like jumbled together, and Five Sauce, they've been friends forever. They went to school together, and then they started their YouTube channel. So it was kind of different how their career started, but it does make sense that their paths crossed eventually because I know a few of the members, they were fans back in the day of them, and that's kind of how they discovered them. And I think that's kind of also played into them getting a record deal.
Yeah. And now look at where they're at now. It's crazy to think just how much they've accomplished within 10 years since the self-titled album. I mean, you could definitely, like, I would love your input on this too, but I think that when bands start off, as a pop punk band early in their career, they split into either one of three directions. It's either they start off pop punk, and then with each album after that, they get poppier and poppier.
Mhm.
Option number two, I think they may have one or two albums that are a little in the poppier direction, but they find their way back to the roots even
Yeah.
better. Or
Mhm.
option three, it's what I call the Sum 41 effect. They get a little heavier and heavier after each release.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, they associate themselves with a lot of bands from the scene. I think they've crossed paths with Sum 41 at some point. I know they're friends with Good Charlotte and stuff. So that was always something, it was their own personal interest. So they were invested in the scene and they were fans of all of these like pop punk and rock leaning bands. And you can tell like from their outfits too, like One Direction was a lot more clean cut, and then you had Sauce on the other hand with like dyed hair and piercings, and then they started getting tattoos. So it was very obvious that they kind of wanted to represent that they're not this like clean boy band.
That's what I call the hot topic effect. Like, if you look at all their wardrobe choices from their EP and that debut album, you could just tell, all
Um,
right, those guys, they went to Hot Topic, or oh, they went to H&M. They're an
oh
H&M
yeah.
core band.
Oh, 100%. It's like very infamous Rolling Stone article came out around that time. Basically saying like they just like party every night. They showed up to the interview like hungover, and there's like bottles everywhere, and they're staying at this like $100 million mansion, and they just like invite groupies over every night. So
Yo, yes, I
like,
did see that article. Oh my
you
God.
remember that? I think
No
that
lie.
kind of backfired on them. Like their fan base did not receive that well. Um,
No, definitely not. And then wasn't there like a nude of Callum that was leaked around that time?
yep,
Oh
I
God.
I remember that night when that picture dropped. Um, it was crazy. Like the group chat was going off
Was
when we
on
saw.
fire.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel bad for him, obviously. He did, put out a tweet. Like he kind of just made fun of it. And he was just like, well, at least you know what it looks like now. And I was like, well, that's a great way to handle it, honestly. Like just
Yeah,
from a
because
publicity standpoint, he did a good job.
I don't know, 100%. I mean, think about it this way. You're starting off early in your career. You have an album that's doing well in the charts. You have a song like She Looks So Perfect that's number one. All of a sudden, boom. Hey, bud, your nude got leaked, by the way. That would just
Yep.
typically destroy your career. But the fact that he was
Yeah.
able to twist it and say, well, it is what it
Mhm.
is.
Yeah.
Good on
And it
him.
kind of played into the whole like not being clean cut, like bad boy image that they were trying to move towards.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense.
I want to go back to something that you brought up earlier. You brought up bands like Sum 41, Good Charlotte. So if you look at the co-writing credits on the debut album, you'll see, for example, Alex Gaskarth from All Time Low. He co-wrote two songs on the album. Joel Madden from Good Charlotte, he actually co-wrote Amnesia. I definitely
Mhm.
want to get into a little bit of the songs. So,
Sure.
what would you say were the songs that, in your opinion, made the album good? And then what were the songs that you thought, a little bit of a miss?
Oh my gosh.
Ugh.
Um, I mean, now that I'm a little older, the lyrics obviously are very juvenile, but it's just so fun. Of course, She Looks So Perfect is like the breakout single, and I still like it, honestly. Like it's perfect for the summer. And I know there are a lot of songs that they're very vocal about hating them, Like, I think Don't Stop is one of them, and let me see what the other one is.
I love Don't Stop though. Come on.
Heartbreak Girl, that's the other one.
Mm,
I personally love that song. It's so cute. But the lyrics are very geared towards like young girls who are like, have a crush on them, which I understand. So I don't know. I feel like She Looks So Perfect is just has a special place in my heart. Uh, of course, what's the one with Alex Gaskarth?
there's Kiss Me, Kiss Me.
Uh-huh. Yep. Very on the nose.
There, yeah.
Very on the nose. There's also a song called 18 where they're basically singing about like having a crush on like an older girl. Um, don't know how I feel about that one. Again, just
Really?
yeah, I don't
Okay.
know. Because I haven't listened to that song in forever, but I think like he still goes to school and I think she goes to college and like she's able to drive already and he can't get into bars. So it's like that age gap. They don't specify it, but it's like I feel kind of iffy about that. Um, I think the other one, Long Way Home, I think Alex wrote that as well. That's
Yes.
a really like I love that one. And I can't even put my finger on it what it is exactly.
Hmm.
But if whenever I listen to it, it's like distinctly Alex's writing style. Like I used to be an All Time Low fan back in the day, not really anymore. But it feels like an All Time Low song. So maybe that's why I also just gravitated towards Five Sauce because I used to enjoy All Time Low's sound. I was also very into the lore back then because
Oh no.
I wasn't just on Tumblr, I was also on Twitter during that time. I was very active in like the
Oh,
Twitter bubble.
oh man.
So I believe English Love Affair is about Harry Styles' sister.
Is it
Uh,
really?
it is, yeah. So
Whoa.
allegedly Ashton, the drummer, used to date her. So that song is about her, and that kind of made the rounds within the Twitter bubble as well.
I bet Twitter had a freaking field day with that.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
100%. Yeah.
oh God. Yeah, I like how you said that the lyrics, and I definitely agree about it, that the lyrics are just so juvenile and they come off as a little cheesy, a little cringe for me, but then again, what pop punk band early in their career didn't have like the quintessential cringe, cheesy
Hmm.
lyrics? But
Yeah.
at the same time, like despite all that, which I don't like about the album, but
Hmm.
the saving grace is that the melodies and the choruses, they hook you in. I'm like, God damn it. I like
Yep.
these songs though. Some of the lyrics kind of suck where it's like, I don't know about that, Chief. I really don't. Like,
Right,
oh,
exactly. It's
like,
like music
yeah.
doesn't have to be serious all the time. Like you can just enjoy it for what it is and for what it was. Like it's been 10 years now, so they've obviously developed and they've grown up. So this was just kind of a snapshot of them, being young.
I mean, listen, the fact that the guys didn't even acknowledge it's been 10 years since the album dropped, that kind of tells you something. It's like,
Yeah, that says a lot for sure.
they really moved on. I mean, especially a song like, oh God, what song am I thinking of? I'm drawing a blank. Oh, Good Girls. She said to me, forget what you thought, but good girls are bad girls that haven't been caught. Like, really, dude? It's a little cheesy, but it works, you know?
If you're a teenage girl, you want to just rebel against your parents, your teachers, whatever kind of authority figure you have in your life. So it just resonates with those types of people. I mean, and again, it's just fun, it's catchy. Like it doesn't need to be anything more than that.
I agree 100%. That's a beautiful way to put it. Nailed it like
Mhm.
always, Mandy. Seriously. All right. So we're going to go into the last part of this interview. So, out of their five albums, where would you personally rank this and why?
Oh my gosh. Compared to like all the albums that they put out, that's such a hard question because the first one is so different compared to the other ones. Obviously, like their lyrical content has changed over the years. They talk a lot about, having to grow up really fast and the people they've heard along the way, and just how their career kind of changed. And the first one compared to that, like that's crazy. But I might have to agree with Five Sauce and just like put it on the bottom.
Ooh, okay.
It is a guilty pleasure, like you said, because again, it's fun. Um, but just when I look at like Youngblood and Calm, just
Yeah.
from a production standpoint, like it's a lot more grown up, it's a lot more technical. Um, I just I can't rank it any higher.
I don't blame you because I do feel the same way. Like, even
Mhm,
Sounds Good, Feels Good, I think it went a little more in a cheesier direction. Like, she's kind of
mhm.
hot. Okay,
You know what?
next.
Now that you mention it,
Oh, no, are you changing it?
now that you mention it, I might have to take that back because I hate it. Sounds good, feels good. I don't know if that's blasphemous to say, but I just I do come back occasionally to the first album just for like the nostalgia factor, and that doesn't happen with Sounds Good, Feels Good. So I'm gonna have to agree with you. So we'll put Sounds Good, Feels Good on the bottom, and then
Okay, and wow.
on the titled.
Self-titled number four. I mean, exactly what you said, I agree with. Just the fact that their later albums, I feel like they really turned from being boys to young men, just more
Mhm,
refined songwriters. From a production
mhm.
standpoint, like you were saying, the songs are just so good. I think Calm, personally, to me, is their best work. Like that really shows Five Sauce at their finest and at their core.
100%. Like, I don't think there's a song on there that I would skip. Like, it's just perfect.
It's really good. And I feel like, listen, no shade on Amnesia. Like, it's a great song, but for me
Mhm.
personally, I don't think it really fit on the self-titled. And I think that as they progress through their career, I feel like they did ballads a whole lot better. Like, if you listen to Best Years or even Old Me, top tier
Yeah.
ballads right there.
Oh, 100%. Like, I know Amnesia is a fan favorite, but it just never clicked for me for some reason. Like, it's too on the nose. Like, the lyrics are just too clunky for me. Like, it's like you said, it's a lot more refined on like the later albums. Like, High is another one that I just like it's me to tears every time. Like, it hits a lot more.
For sure. All right. Last question. What kind of direction do you see the band going in? It's been 10 years, like we said, since self-titled. Albums they've been dropping about, I think every 2 years they drop an album, so we might get a new one from them this year. What do you think is their sense of direction they're going in? More poppy, or are they going to surprise us?
Well, they started their own like solo careers. I know Luke has been like putting out solo work and Ashton as well. And they are kind of going more into like an indie pop direction. No guitar elements really. Um, but since they have like such a deep connection with the scene, and they're also on, or they were last year on the We Were When We Were Young bill.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I could see them leaning more into like guitar heavy sounds again. I would love that personally. Um, but they kind of carved out this niche for themselves. It's like a very distinctive sound that they have now that I also very much enjoy. So I could see a blend of both of them. Like it would be my perfect album. There's also a band, I'm kind of blanking on the name right now, but people will probably know what I'm talking about. They just put out a single that sounds identical to Me, Myself, and I. Um, and it's not just like a couple people saying it, it's just like the entire comment section is full of it. If they all think the same way, like that's just like it's the Five Sauce sound, and like everyone can recognize it. So yeah, I would say they should stick with like the more like synth elements in their sound, but I would love to like have them incorporate guitars again. That would be ideal for me.
I don't think you're the only person who feels that way because like we both
Mhm.
agreed on, they've gotten poppier and poppier after each album, and then Five Sauce Five, like yeah, it had a few good songs, like Complete Mess, but after a while, it's
Hmm.
like, all right, kind of a miss, you know?
Yeah, for sure. But I think they're all such like skilled musicians and they have such great input from like the big heavy hitters in the scene. I'm sure they can, reinvent themselves. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
I'm hoping for it too. So fingers crossed, we get a little surprise from the guys.
Yep. I sure hope
Awesome.
so.
Cool. Mandy, thank you so much for doing this. This was such a blast, like always, really.
I know it's always a pleasure. But let's do this again.
Oh, we will definitely. You let me know.
Cool.
All right, Mandy. I'll talk to you soon, friend.
Awesome. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.